Kalu juba la na me ba la da me no ye dun ba san je chan de pe je wa xia jiao tu ba la cha de lo zhe du jia lu che wo dun ba zhong de de xin xie ba zha zhong ba yang da ba do be re ba da xia su den bar de wa re xie ba ji de jian ba ji wo du Kalo yuwa la na me ba la da me na je tu ba san je zon de pe je wa xia jia tu ba la jia te che do jia zo je wu de ba zhong de xin xiao da zhong ba ya da ba zo be san je ri ba dan xiao tu den ba de wa ra xie ba ji de jian ba ge wu du we kalo yuwa Lana me ba la me nange tumba sange chomden de be ye wa sha ya tu ba la cha sa shodo ya ze je o da de ga ne to ke dan ze sa je de lo gong ba dun bo ma ne je de na chu je zon de ze ke bo je la ja Nanda Goma Chodu Zuzangwa Yeje Gyaso Serge Humbonda Shaba Jidin Sona Namewa Gombo Yune Gyala Chasa Senjo Demba Jime Dawe Sha Serdo Tawa Gyala Chasa Dundra Gyala Seba Sunaji Nyame Jeje Gyala Chazalo Gombo Duje Jedemba Tamje Kembe Damba Sona Yende Gyazo Che Dejin Shela Chazalo Nabe Eja Jewa Gyur Gewe Nyezo Le Chedo Dandan Gyur Ba Chigyo Gyur Chazalo Tone drove nanyamde lava dhava rabdune Shinge tamba yende gendu layam jazna Deva siyam veja se gewa punzun zabarege Range sene yonte de range dambaye Karma rabre marme dan yoma seva chuburdam Melan lodan tenda Düje çena de da Sana de damce sepai Gobon done genge radı Kada nadan şive la çube Sibe sole rova çuvare To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, Lord of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When a supreme among humans, you were born on this earth, you paced out 7 strides and said, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise, then I prosper. With pure bodies, form supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best Lord, to you I prosper. With a supreme sign, face like the spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prosper. You are immaculate, 3 worlds are not. Incomparably wise one, to you I prosper. The Savior having great compassion, the Founder having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean. To you, the one gone to thusness, I prosper. The purity which makes one free from attachment,
the virtue which frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime pure reality, to that dharma which pacifies that prostrate. Those who are liberated and who also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realization, who are devoted to the moral precepts, to you, the sublime community intending virtue, I prostrate. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions, subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a mirage, the flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud, see conditioned things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain the rank of all-seeing, subdue the whole of all, and be delivered from samsara suffering.
Baba Kunjo Sula Dege Gagi Toba Tuji Na Sumden De Giro Ka Jago Bumbo Rega Gilo Hindu Jimbo Dong Chanju Tsembe Gindu Jimbo Dong Da Jitu Juzu Di Sumden De Samo Nama Shijawe Chuge Namjange Tengen Tenla Nyom Parishu Ya Di Se Chanju Tsembo Tsembo Jimbo Baba Jire Se Wanju Shira Jibaru Tu Jimba Samo Jiba Nila Nambar Tajin Pombo Mabo Deda Ya Rajingi Dombar Nambar Tao Tene Sange Tu Sedan Demba Jaribu Janju Tsemba Semba Jimbo Baba Shire Se Wanju Digi Jime Sori Jibo Gala La Shira Jibaru Tu Jimba Samo Jiba Jiba Deba De Jidar Labenda Dege Jime Badan Janju Semba Semba Jimbo Baba Jire Se Wanju Ji Tsedan Demba Shara Da Debula Dege Jime So Sheri Bo Rigi Bo Rigi Bo Mo Gala La Shira Jibaru Tu Jimba Samo Chibo Jibo Dubo De Dita Nambar Tawar Jade Bumbo Ngabo Teta Layan Rajingi Dombar Nambar Yanda Ba Jizo Tao Su Dombo Wu Dombo Ni Su 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 Le Domba Ni Jima Yin Domba Ni Le Gyang Su Jima Yin No De Jin Du Torba Dang Du Ji Dang Du Ji Dang Nambar Shiba Nang Domba Wu Shari Bu De Dang Shi Dang Ji Domba Ni De Sini Meba Ma Jeba Ma Gaba Jima Meba Jima Dang Shi Jiwa Meba Gamba Meba Shari Bu De Da Wen Nam Domba Ni La Tu Me Sorwa Du Shi Me Du Ji Me Nambar Shiba Me Mi Me Nawa Me Na Me Chi Me Lu Me Yi Me So Me Ja Me Chi Me Ro Me Peja Me Chu Me Go Me Ge Ga Me Ba Ne Yi Ge Ga Me Yi Ge Nambar Shibe Ga Ge Ba De Ya Me Do Ba Re Ba Me Ma Re Ba Se Ba Me Ba Ne Ga Je Me Ga Je Se Be Ba Do Ya Me Do Ne Je Do Do Me Wa Da Bu Ju Wa Da Ko Ba Da La Me Yi Je Me Do Ba Me Ma Do Ba Ya Me Do Sha Ri Bu Da Wa Na Cha Ju Sen Ba Na To Ba Me Be Shi Shara Ge Ba Ru Du Chen Ba La Te Ji Ne Te Sen Ba Te Ba Me Shin Cha Ba Me De Chi Ji Lo Le Shin Lo De De Yang Ye Le De Be Tar Chi Du Zon Do Na Pra Shu Be Zang Ge Dang Ji Gyang Shara Ge Ba Ru Du Chen Ba La Te Ne La Na Me Ba Yang Dang Ba Zo Be Zang Ju Do Ngo Ba Ru Do Ba Ru Sang Ge Su De Da Wa Na Shara Je Ba Ru Du Chen Be Nga Re Ba Chen Be Nga La Na Me Be Nga Me Ya Ba Da Nyam Be Nga Dong Nga Dang Je Ra De Che Pra Che Be Nga Me Je Be Na De Ba She Ba Cha De Shara Ge Ba Ru Du Chen Be Nga Me Ba Da Ya Da Ga De Ga De Ba Ra Ga De Ba Ra Sang Ga De Buddhi So Shari Bu Chang Ju Sambo Sambo Jumbo De Da Shara Je Ba Ru Du Jumbo Samo La La Ba Ra Ja Wo Te Ne Jom De 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 Ge De 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 Le Shen De Chang Ju
Sambo, Sambo, Jambu, Baba, Jinese, Wanju, Jawa, Jine, Lexo, Lexo, Rikibu, Tede, Jino, Tede, Jide, Jida, Kiki, Shindu, Shindu, Jebaru, Jeba, Samola, Jebaru, Jade, Deje, Jeba, Naga, Jesu, Yiramo, Chode, Dege, Dege, Jeka, Zene, Zetan, Demba, Jade, Tade, Buddha, Janju, Zemba, Zemba, Baba, Jinese, Wanju, Tan, Tamje, Tan, Dembe, Koro, Zeta, Tan, Adam, Midan, Amayi, Dan, Jisa, Jebe, Jede, Yiran, Chode, Dege, Zumba, Lamumba, Page 11. Thus I have heard once the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajagriha on Vulture's Peak, together with a great assembly of monks and the great Bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One was totally absorbed in the concentration that examines all phenomena, called profound illumination. And at the same time, the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, was engaged in the profound practice of the wisdom gone beyond, analyzing the five attributes. Then, through the inspiration of the Buddha, the Venerable Shantideva spoke to the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Mahasattva, saying, how should those of your family learn who wish to follow the profound practice of the wisdom gone beyond? Thus he spoke, and the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, replied to the Venerable Shantideva, saying, O Shantideva, whatever your son and daughter of your family wishes to follow the profound practice of the wisdom gone beyond, should look at it like this, analyzing the five aggregates by nature empty. Form is empty, emptiness is no form, emptiness is no other than form, form is no other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, recognition, karmic formations, and consciousness are all empty. Therefore, all phenomena are empty without characteristics. They are born and unceasing. They are neither impure nor free from impurity. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, and emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no recognition, no karmic formations, no consciousness. There is no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind. There are no spheres of the eye, no spheres of the mind. There are none of these all the way up to the sphere of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance, nor is the destruction of ignorance. There are none of these all the way up to, there is no old age and death, nor is there destruction of old age and death. Thus there is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no cessation of suffering, and no path. There is no wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, because there is no attainment, all Bodhisattvas hold the wisdom gone beyond. Because there is no obscurity of mind, they have no fear. Passing utterly beyond falsity, they reach beyond the bounds of sorrow. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times, by relying on the wisdom gone beyond, fully and clearly awakened to unsurpassed, most perfect and complete and enlightened. Therefore, the mantra, the wisdom gone beyond, the mantra of great insight, the unequaled and unsurpassed mantra, the mantra that calms all suffering, should be known as the truth, for there is no deception. The mantra of wisdom gone beyond is proclaimed. Oh, Shariputra, this is how Bodhisattva Mahasattva should learn the profound wisdom gone beyond. Then the Blessed One arose from that concentration and praised the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, saying, very good, O son of good family. It is exactly like that. The profound wisdom gone beyond should be practiced exactly as you have said, and then the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One has said this, the Venerable Shariputra, the noble Avalokiteshvara, the whole gathering in the world, the skies, men, anti-gods, and spirits, their hearts full of joy, praise the words of the Blessed One, so in his noble discourse on the essence of the wisdom gone beyond.
아니, 잘못 생각이 또 준주자들 자주sempre 쪄봐도 두바 준주. 오예, 제가 다 자주sempre 쪄봐도 두바 세다 자주sempre 쪄봐서. 단 뭔지 자세 자주semble 롭 산이도 저기 쪄봐도 졸라. 만족이. 다 뺄랑. 아니, 펴봐서 삼바시. 아니, 어디나 시콘도 콘는지 제대로 라바는지 말하는 양. 아니 자주semple 쪄봐라 비니 삼바 대지기 보내는 가서 다 로동 치고 준주로 로동 치고 요래서.
It is now a regular Thursday evening lecture in the way of the Bodhisattva. the way of the Bodhisattva, the Bodhicharya Avatara. The Bodhicharya Avatara is the exemplification of the way of the Bodhisattva, the Bodhisattvas of the past. Just as they trained, so too will I train, so too will I study and contemplate with these exemplary Bodhisattvas setting the example.
대단히 이런 자세 전주선배 줘봐라 나봐도 자세 전주선배 줘봐서 당아도 뒤중 안아도 지금 카드 나와 나신이다 삼바 줘봐 줘봐 삼바 아니 줘봐서 왔다 어디나 싫어 한다 지금 수수고 줘봐 매시 줘봐서 뭐 줘봐 삼보 줘봐 니봐 세게 줘봐 대단히 당아도 전주선배 줘봐서 줘봐 나는 줘봐 하자는 상부 줘봐 나는 초도 줘봐 어디 내게 줘봐 이자 사실은 라피스 어디 내지 시작이 어려서
The way of the Bodhisattva, which is trained in, that which we express as a set of trainings that are the way of the Bodhisattva, involves the preparation and the execution of these activities that are the very activities of Bodhisattvas. And of all sorts of activities that there are, the most sublime form that good action takes are those actions of the Bodhisattva.
오, 세상에 이르는다. 나 도도 자세 장주 선배 줘봐라 라봐서도 딱한다 장주 선배 줘봐라 라봐서도 세다 장주 선배도 장주 쓰리 안 좋겠다. 타바 토제 미유기 탈도되라. 아니 미유되라 장주세. 아니 이 토비하게 딱 남는 라봐서는 아니 장주 선배 줘봐라 라봐서. 그도 되시잖아. 어떻게 지어래서.
So then, in short, the training in the way of Bodhisattvas may be understood etymologically in the Bodhisattva as the person with Bodhi, the mind of awakening. That is the ultimate objective, and the trainings and activities that make up the path for the realization of this ultimate objective are the way of the Bodhisattva.
제가 이래서 마땅한 그게 한다. 이내 rumbo 지도 먼저 rumbo 그게 타를 못지를 줘야 차시를 띵 아니 될 줘야 지도를 차리지 아니 줘야 람 그래서게 람 아니 줘야 차지 아니 줘도 막 가지 많이 강에 가도 답시 망고 지고도 되나시 지고 왔다 나라도 미유 창주스 받아 타를 못을 자 될래야 또 그런 것이 럽고 이외에 안 그렇다고 람 될래야다 아니 장주 생각이다. 간다고 도사기 람지 이어로 되나 신신이다. 도사디 아니 장주 셈을 랍네. 장주 셈디 아니 장주 살 도사기 람도 자기 어려서.
And just as ordinarily, when we plan to travel to a distant country, that distant place, we first find our route and then make our preliminary plans and anticipate what along the way might pose an obstacle. In the same way, Bodhi is the distant objective a long way off. A route is taken to the achievement of Bodhi. That is the path that is the trainings in the mind of awakening Bodhichitta. Bodhichitta itself, like the very path to Bodhi.
다만에 나랑 그네바 조국이 봐 있나? 내가 그네 파트는 먼저 개살 돈이 봐 있나? 와서랑가 아니 나한테 등산 너 있는 거 랑가 랑바들 민다 랑가 민이 말에 아니 랑가 조사기 어게 따사다 가마 여러 어디 랑가 뒤지 랑가 뒤 가나 아니면 더 살아요. 뭐 신발요. 다들 되게 와. 디나 신진다. 맞아. 장국 살아 줘야라. 더 심바. 아니 더 심바. 더 들어와. 강같이 버티게 하는 거였어.
And these days, supposing you were traveling to the capital, then you take the highways to the capital, each highway with its route number and all of its markings along the way. And on that way, on that route, there are those who have already passed along that route and arrived, and there are those who are on their way presently, and then there are those who are yet to depart but will travel later. And no differently, Bodhi, as the destination, involves all those who have taken the route to awakening and arrived, and those who are presently on their way, and then those who will be on their way at some future point.
더 살아봤어. 너는 랩 사와 지세. 하나 더 신봤어. 뭐를 영어 줄봐. 뒤에 숨기. 골라 자제 연구를 와 뒤에 숨기 자제 연구를. 그래서 대수리는 달라 사와. 그들은 아니 다 오케이. 산지 고반토가 장주 톱 산지들도 다 거기 사진 랩 사와. 장주 톱을 랩 심어. 그래서 다 안에 또 심어 들어와. 다 나도 le thangbo de la bar yuwa ta da la la mare la bar yuwa ro cha na o de de ta ha sa ga cha ne ne de de ba yore lam gi cha ne de de ba ti yore so.
Those who have departed and arrived are one group. Those presently en route are another. And those that will at some later point be en route, then the third group, divided by the 3 times of their travel. And those who have already engaged in the trainings and have achieved awakening, the state of Buddhahood, they are, as it were, already arrived. And then there are those who are engaged in the training so that they will arrive, and they are presently on their way, en route. And then there are those who are, like we are, beginners, who have yet to depart. At some point, they will depart, but have not yet. Thus, these 3 groups.
있다. 장주고 쌤 줄래 깨네. 장주고 쌤보다 뭐 이런 것도 줄래 깨네. 안에 랑게 빵제들이 강아 빵 사서나 딱 거기 빵제 빵 사도 콜라 고된 톱으로 고된 톱이 딱 거기 하게 랩 거사들 레버를 그런 미유지 주바로 봐. 대단 좀 사줘도 다 빌라 산지지 고방 장주지 고방 어디 톱 사줘보다 항상 찍지. 아 돈이 무슨 장주선 줄래 깨네. 아니 빵제 마방마. 하르바 마톱 얘기 알겠다. 람 줄래 깨 심바. just lam jula kesena ya pangje thata pang ma cheba paru gita lamla ti kangalo lamla lob shimba ta chanju sem jula ma ji ni zo ta lamla malo bare so lob juwa re lob yo mare so.
Those individuals who have manifestly given rise to the awakening mind, Bodhichitta, and have abandoned all that is to be abandoned, have achieved Nirodha, cessation. What was to be achieved has been achieved. They have arrived. They have realized their ultimate objective, realized awakening, the state of Buddhahood. There is such an individual, and then there is another who has given rise to the mind of awakening, perceiving emptiness directly, yet hasn't yet fully abandoned all that is to be abandoned. Until they have abandoned all that is to be abandoned, they yet remain in training. And then there are those who have yet to give rise to the mind of awakening, Bodhichitta. They are not yet training. Thus, these 3 types of individuals.
근데 이들도 맞다 가르쳐 알았나? 장주 쌤디 먼저 그 바사기 겨람 겨람 겨리 먼저 제 나가 타는 거 되네 대버도 저거를 되네 대버도 나가 딜을 저거를 생각을 나가고 남벌제 안기지 아니 나가 민도 제도 어디나 시제다 먼저 남는 남네 근데 다서 장주보다 더 사기 겨람도 가랬으면 장주고 쌤들 넘버 당부들이 해서
The mind of awakening bodhicitta is the highway, is the interstate for traveling the very great distance from here to there, giving route numbers along the way, the name of that interstate that takes one all the way to awakening is the number one interstate, bodhicitta.
예, 죄송합니다. 당고 장주고 쌤 깨고 곧삼반에 되네 야신이 당고 소람게 당고 장주 쌤 줄에 깨봤다 소람 줄에 깨로 소람 줄에 깨 아니 소람 줄에 깨는 소람 뒤람디 양줄람이 아니 돈이 또배 로기 싱니 아니 로 장주 쌤이 돈이 또배 로기 싱소나 소람을 lep시 아 돈이 또배 로디기 동반이디 곰 돈이 무슨도 떠서나 소람을 내 아니 통은 돈이 전 통한테 맞아봐 양의 양도 거두 있는 양그 동반이 되는 거 따와서 통투가 이거이나 아니 고름지 아니 동반이 맞도 뒤값 남이야 매가 차서나 아니 물을라 어째 남가 전주쌤이 그러나 강가 전주쌤이 이발라 아니 남 사제 간다고 불바바 하체는 남가 사는 분에게 그래서
From the very first moment the mind of awakening bodhicitta arrives, one has achieved the first moment of the path of accumulation. And when one returns again and again to the mind of awakening bodhicitta, such that one ascertains emptiness with that first instant of ascertaining emptiness, one begins on the path of preparation. And when repeated return and contemplation of emptiness as it has been understood finally gives rise to direct perception of emptiness. The first moment of that direct perception of emptiness begins one on the path of seeing. And when repeated meditation upon emptiness characterizes one's mental life, then this is to be on the path of cultivation or meditation. And when emptiness is continuously perceived and no further training is required, one has achieved the path of no more training. In this way, five stages involved in the awakening mind of Bodhichitta.
이제 그 남나버때야 아니 장주 또다 남게 아마도도 장주 셈제 근데 장주 셈 되네 오 나가다 이게 야 두두 좀 사제를 내고로 내가 나시지 아니 거간다 남게 똑바디야 당부 장주 셈 그런 무슨 장주 셈 무슨 더 죽셈이요로 무슨 당부 기억도 소름 기어 아 소름도 있겠네 아니 거기다 남남 아니 거기 사 만에 그걸 남는 주산이다 이바들 고통이 또 베셔라고 세바체니 아니 남는 없으나 아니 그 남이바도 졸음을 내기도 아니 되네 돈이 무슨 또 남이 시도 모두 교서나 세바들 안 모주나 아니 거다 별나가 남제는 배슌다 가다 내주 교함에 봐서 야 토토야 너는 내가 되게 차고 제사달 강가로 또 람 아마디 장주샘 아니 장주샘 딜라야 하는 소 그런 람르르 저도 아니 바르바르바치 야도 아니 물람데서는 달람 타치 말해 손
In this way, there are 5 paths. The mother of all paths is the mind of awakening Bodhichitta. As one travels along this path, there are features along the way at which one arrives as one's realizations increase. There are 2, aspirational bodhicitta and engaged bodhicitta. And in the first aspirational bodhicitta, the moment it arises, one achieves the path of accumulation. And the trainings involved in ascertaining emptiness are the trainings of the path of preparation. One has ascertained emptiness, and then when this ascertained emptiness then manifests to the mental consciousness itself directly, then one has achieved the path of seeing, an unchanging achievement, as if mounting the greatest highway of all. And so the mother of these paths is the mind of awakening bodhicitta itself. And as one continues their meditations to the point where no more training is required, at that point then one has achieved the path of no more training, which is the consummation of the path, the very final completion of the path.
어이 사투인들이 다 람나기 그래 어사기 람 아니 람고 나나다스 가을리도 가산점 가릴레기 유메디 먼저 시험 맞춰으로 하고 뒷나 시즌다 람날리도 삼아서 수 대려 삼아줘라 다 대인들 다 단단하니 수를 삼아자외나 람 람날로 심바르베 로 심바르베 로버 주어레스 어디니 아마도 수수 말하고 다들 계시리 다 람날로 메수미와 랍 사교 랍 심바 랍 주아 디스는 랑 가와요레스 다 수수 생주선 랍 요레 요 말에 랍 주어레 말레스 어다 디네 아니 다 맞아 최치 지고요 해서
So the path then, with stages along the way, and one would consider themselves, apply this framework to themselves, recognizing 3 characteristic individuals: those who have trained and completed the trainings, those presently engaged in the trainings, and those yet to train. 3 individuals. Where does one fall among these 3? Has one yet begun the training or not? With this in mind, we engage in our conversation.
제가 디인데 딱 간소 근데 그 람라 라베가 다 장주고 셈 슝남들 장주고 셈들 당보 고속사게 장주고 셈들 메셈 아니 메셈 깨차네 아니 가르치거든 죽셈스다 람 랑가디 도사디 랑가디 뭐때 미기 때 때만나시 랑기 미기 통 아니 통에다 들어요 그거로 나 루비다 많이 죽셈스다 장주셈이죠 간제 수주고 장주 당보 장주고 셈 장주고 셈이 표현이 장주sem다 랍 퇴바지 삼바지 아니 장주sem다 그래 내 장주sem 줄에 깨버이나 랍랍 투사를 로서 말아 랍 투다 아니다 거기 내 투사를 삼바를 삼베가 아니 죽셈 제가 장주sem 우리 바시아는 아무면은 얘네 죽셈 장주sem 니요래서 나로 디자인이 요래서
So the path of training, a superhighway, with these 2 moments, first of aspirational bodhicitta, then followed by engaged bodhicitta, the mind of awakening itself, shown to us by others, so that we may recognize it, and then pursue it. First, the characterization of the advantages of the awakening mind of bodhicitta, and study of the awakening mind of bodhicitta and contemplation of it, with the recognition that, oh, I might produce in myself such a mind, and if I did, would I have the capacity to engage in the further trainings that it entails? Yes, I could and will, and with that commitment then, one engages bodhicitta, thus beginning engaged bodhicitta. Therefore, the mind of awakening bodhicitta of these two forms, aspirational and engaged.
Oh, yeah. Today, the lamb is but the giddy. What was like lamb is but the giddy, ya can't let the top the gun. That top the sheriff neat ton song to train. And it what you send gave but the Tony to the sheriff sim, Simba de pet. Tony Mosun to the sheriff Simba. Simba, Tony to be more to young Simba. 아니 다만 타르신도 돈이 무슨 도고 싫어고 마시버 뒤 매봐 전제기 띵해진 그 남지를 뭐 도단되게 되니까 다 탑다 싫어 이 냠도 매나 이 용투고 매봐 냠도 여나 용투고 여봐 가진 거 저런 거만 나한테 제시 좀 해서
Therefore, these stages too in the progression along the path, a progression requiring the unification of the aspect of wisdom with the aspect of method. For the aspect of method, the mind of awakening, and the aspect of wisdom, the direction of the perception of emptiness. And with repeated contemplation of emptiness, such that the realization of emptiness is continuous, this aspect of wisdom, always complemented by the aspect of method, continuously in samadhi, makes possible the progression along the path, but without method and its complement of wisdom, one cannot make their progress along the path, as I have said.
Oh yeah, 이제 이제 맞다. 남기 рем바 가지고 있다. 남기 잠주 셈베게 잠주 셈 줄에 깨용도 아주 가리 잠주 셈 너무 줄에 깨 너무 나랑 가리 삼로 가리 땅 요래 가리 켈레 요래 라게 되게 가르쳐요잖아. 장주 셈 줄에 깨용도 다 장주 셈 생에디 장주 기셈세도 장주스나 미유리제 다 미유디 두버 진얘기 셈데라 장주 셈스 일라고요래서
In the stages along the path, and in the moment when the awakening mind of bodhicitta arises in the mind, at that moment of its arising, during the first instant, what is the attitude in the mind? What occurs just then? At the moment the mind of awakening bodhicitta arises, see in the awakening mind the two parts of bodhicitta, bodhi, awakening, that is the objective, and chit, the mind of awakening, that is the mind which produces the objective, bodhi, awakening.
뭐야 this is number 다 거기 미유 장주들라 장주 니어 장주들라 신지 톱제 장주 랑기 톱제 장주스 니어래서
The objective itself, bodhi, awakening, is two-part. Awakening for the welfare of others, awakening for one's own welfare.
나 이도 창조 인이 미유로 니가로 랑 object 미유들라 현지 톱제 창조 랑게 톱제 창조 니 요바체 아 디르 삼바 되게 중요하게 아 창조 셈 끼어도 다무 그게 tumbaje wala sanju sem tomdo ke samba tumba te kedu samba changju tunyen ke tumba shenduen tunyen ke tumba ni yoso
There are two objectives: awakening for the welfare of others and awakening for one's own welfare. That is bodhi, that is the realization of the welfare of others, and bodhi, that is the realization of one's own welfare. So then when there are these two objectives, then there would be two inclinations or aspirations toward the two respective objectives. That is the aspiration to bodhi, the realization of the welfare of others, and the inclination to bodhi, the realization of one's own welfare.
뭐요 아 이거는 창조 그 셈이 tumba ni di keon도 당보 shenduen tunyen ke tumba de ke 아니 shenduen tunyen ke tumba de ke네 아니 디 제소 창조 tunyen ke tumba de ke 와 그거 분이 ke 와 tumba ni 봐
The definite order for the development of aspiration to awakening is first the development of the aspiration to awakening for the welfare of others, followed afterwards by aspiration to awakening for one's own welfare.
나 tumba ni 부티기 미유 창조 니 투비용도 당보 창조 tumba 투고 아니 창조 tumba 투 차네 아니 대제라 아니 창조 당보 창조 미유되다 tumba 니나네 당보 현대 tumba 뭐지 창조 tumba 뭐 제일 게임바 다 미유 두는데 당보 창조 당보디 창조 되는 게 되게 미유 라니 창조 동안을 두고 아니 대조산 아니 신대 신기 톱제 창조 두고 그래서 그거 고른데 품어서
The definite order in the aspiration to awakening of first the aspiration to awakening for the well-being of others, followed by aspiration to awakening for one's own welfare, realizes the objective in a definite order. First realized is awakening for one's own welfare, followed by awakening for the welfare of others.
tumba 부티 가르치는 예바르스나 당보 신 창조성 미유기 당보디 신 대화를 거야 신 대화를 거야 그 미유 속으로 와 인자 당보 신 대화를 거기 인삼 tumba디 끼어 tumba디 끼어는 삼다 tumba디 두고 쳐발라 당보 랑 창조 맞었나 신 창조를 거 두고 말와 내가 인자 아니 신 창조를 거야 치도 아니 창조 톱도 맞나 탑민도 봐봐 자기 인삼도 아니 라디오 되게 맞게 신 창조를 거기 인삼에 삼바 끼어도 신도 되게 맞게 했어
The reason why the order in the development of aspiration to awakening is definite the way that it is for the reason that observing that sentient beings must be established in lasting well-being as one's primary objective and committing oneself to this objective, then one realizes only then that it isn't possible save for achieving enlightenment, awakening oneself. And then one commits oneself to the achievement of personal awakening. It is in view of the need to establish sentient beings in their well-being that one aspires to achieve personal awakening.
뭐 일단 미유 들었는데 이제 터도 들었는데 당보라니 랑 장주 톱 아니 랑 장주 톱 자는 신의 장주를 신의 장주로 꼬고 말아 랑 장주 마도나 신의 장주로 꼬 두고 말아 일단 미유 들고 랑 장주 뭐라도 신의 장주 제일 좋고 해서
And in the realization of one's purposes, first one realizes personal awakening, the very personal awakening that is required in order to establish others in their awakening.
야, 제사다 장주 쌤 미유다 아니 미유 당보 중에 두 번이 그런데 이지 하고 해야 돼 개침부 열어서
Recognizing the definite order in aspiration to awakening and the order in the realization of the objective awakening in this way, such a comprehension is really critical.
다 만한족다 수준이 냠내적으로 와 냠내다 장주생을 라보래 라베 지도 장주생이 미유주에서도 신된 최고로 냠내 최고로 와 냠내 최고로 이내다 냠내 지도 좀봐 다 단단하도 내 당보와 이 냠내 지당 림바텔라 내 당보와 냠내 지나 바직 양 람 가로 또고 줄에 계산이 돈이 또로 줄에 계산이 람지 림바 지야 돈이 무슨도 또 사는 람지 림바 지야 그래서 지당 지야다 지당 민자 해서
Trainings in the awakening mind, the Bodhichitta that are required are a set of practices, and they are the very practices that achieve the realization of the well-being of others. And there are those of us who are at the stage of the beginner, and there are practices for the person in this stage. There are the set of practices for those who have developed the mind of awakening, another set of practices for those given that they've developed the awakening mind of Bodhichitta, and then with those who have realized emptiness, then too, for such an individual, the set of practices for such a person, there being different practices for the different individuals.
페이드 다 장주 쌤라 마제버 제베치도 러버당 장주 쌤 당보 기념 쪽에 아니 냠내 지두스 아니 가라 냠내 지두 아니 계산하고 저거다니 저 돈도 벌라 그런 기루 쪽에 냠내 고추 요드 아니 가르쳐 버래 내 엠바텐 수수 주가 냠내 chen 가진 강매는 주되는 이야기를 야 심지에 패도 제 심지에는 패버 주는 이야기를 그니 거리 상하여 캐쳐요 저거 따라해 수입하거든 저거 지송자
There then are practices for the person who has yet to develop the awakening mind of Bodhichitta. The practices for the person at the beginning stage. Just as I have described now already, Dumba was questioned by his disciples. For the person at the outset, is it best that they remove themselves into isolation and practice in isolation, in retreat, in a hut? Or should they be out of doors, serving the well-being of others? Which is appropriate for such a person.
아니 심전라 팬다고 들래 아니 수수 방제 니모 송격 제바 아니 내 에발을 때리 그거니 뭉쳐 니디 아니 에발을 때리 그거냐 내체 제바의 개체와 레스네 그래서
And Dromdompa's reply, what was that reply? Dromdompa's reply was, for the person yet without any realization, yet to develop the awakening mind of Bodhichitta, for that beginner, for whom it would be yet the first time such a mind arose, better than yet serving the well-being of others, better yet to guard oneself in isolation, in retreat, for the abandonment of the klesha.
예, 그다음에 한국의 생기 그게 똑같이 세대 대법면은 아니 시행을 편도 제가 있나요? 이 편토고 말해스 가르스나 빼나스 아니 실업 동반 제가 그거 네 그다음 아주 달래줘 있잖아 달래 나눠라 아니 갈라다 동해다 사야도 루네 제가 있나 그 봐줘라 팽기로 와뭐 그것도 있나 가사기를 갖고 오면 중요하지 제 팽기로 와 라는 똥보면은 왜 똥밭제 받는 시 달래 똥밭제 받이나 뭐 달래 제 받으면 개고 걸 더베 개요 말와 어디나 시에 스페디지 않은 숨을 숨지
Nu tombachi paru ani parobala dewa najira.
제가 수술 또 오면은 내 똥밭제 받지 과세 그래서 또 얘는 내 제나는 칼라 또 루네 제 받지 과 어디에 빼지 않은 숨시하고
For a person without adequate realization, without authentic realization, to go about serving the well-being of others is ultimately to no avail. Why is it to no avail? It is likened to, whereas if one has a plate and or a container and fills it with food, fills it with water or something to drink, and there's a container that can convey the food and the water to another, then when it is given to another, they may eat and they may drink. But when one has only an empty container and gives it to another, then there's nothing to eat and nothing to drink for that other. One needs their fill of blessings, of realization that may be conveyed to another.
아니 다 당고 내 당고 저기 당고 수수기 방제 유모들도 송 거야 아니 검견 그 땡에지 거면 또뭐 줄에 깨게 탑치해 해쳐 어디 숨겨래서
For that reason, for the person at the outset, the beginner, to guard against the klesha in meditation, to establish samadhi, and finally develop realization, these methods are primary for such a person.
모르겠다. 라면이나 담가서 담가서기 아니 모두들 배는 처음에 오지면은 처음에 얘네만 미지기다 원래 수술 밀어만 바지 제바 나신 도스 다들 명화서도 어디를 리버기니 온 거야 레스 세상다 디디 아니 가지고서 명화도 미반의 일이 랑을 원래도 외들랑 랑 외들 처음에 외들 랑 세워지기로 와 아니 내 랑을 나오는 밀지도 랑 나오는 차야 셀 세워지기로 와 이나시 당하생이디 아니 도스 다 찍는 용하게 되지 지레지다 실업수를 당하기를 용어로 어쩌다 랑라 근데 저기도 신 내서들 실업면은 랑라 도구 말아 랑라 실업되면은 신을 실업돼야 요마로 어디 쓰고요 그래서
Upadesha, pith instructions from one to the next and to the next in a relay, like the passing on of a butter lamp, is how the transmission of realization would proceed. Just as when one receives a butter lamp from another, then they are illuminated and they may pass it on to the next person, and the next person is illuminated, and they may receive the butter lamp and be illuminated. The illumination, the blessing, and without a blessing, nothing is transmitted.
that 수디 랑라 근데 전주 생 똑바 때문에 뭐냐면 새 토면은 아니 명하고 뒤져오지 않는 송 여러와 다사 토때 돈이 무슨 또 사네 아니 다 냠네디 때문에 말해서 냠네디 때문에 말해 되니 수수고 숨겨지고 다 심지기 변체 저들이 심지기 변체 보이나 나와 지라도 여러와 이래도 뭐 시에라 변체에 개체와 어디 숨겨래서
So the oral instruction and the reply from Drompa, as it applies to the person who hasn't yet stabilized the awakening mind of Bodhichitta. But for the individual who has direct perception of emptiness, then it is an altogether different story. They may turn to serving now the well-being of others as of first importance, as they have now the blessing required to realize that welfare of others.
사사 톱산에 다 수수 배당 배디 그래 송샷으나 질럽되는 부버상보스 배 가지고 배 잘라 녹사 저의 친구 보고 드려요 드려나 잘라 가들 막 밀레 때네 가지고 있는 조야네 봐 밀레 때네 라나 당아요 봐 밀레 당아요 봐 배들이 상부요 봐 어디나 신차대요 그래서 제단다 사톱산에 아니라기다 라나 누가 토바 인도 시행을 누가 집어 있나야 랑이 누가 연기 말에 라나 누가 권에 본거 배그를 시행라야 누가 가질 때는 누가 이번에 때르투가 여봐 어디에 차기 열해서
But once one mounts this ground, then to illustrate that person's newfound capacity, they are so continuously filled with blessings that they are likened to a pure treasure vase. And no matter how much is given out, yet there is always more, as that ground has been won, and one has every potential, and though others would seem to deplete one, there is always ever more in store.
뭐야 다 단다서 그들은 다 단다가도 장주 돈이 무슨 또배기 장주 샘디 줄라 마게 봐도라 아니 냐면 다 간데 치고래스나 장바다 인지도 곰 소장이 다 장바다 인지도 소리야 라고 줄라 고는 공부 해야지 띵에지 슈침부 째야지 곰제 그거 사와 개침벌에서 이 곰마 저와체 샘제기 편다가도 있노 아니 펜토 말 펜다이 템 그저 말에 다들 잠바도 인지 고매하게 주저레스 다 당주로 돈이 무슨 또 줄에 깨찬 상주선 보라는 돈이 또 줄에 깨찬아 아니 다 랑이 줘봐라 무슨 나버레스 줘봐 무슨 냠수 나버 짐바를 르 롱제 깨서 짐바 땅 보다 랑이 그 타당 땅 투약이 누가 땅을 줘야 매봐 네, 이제 누가 토바들이 차, 저는 비리 냠내 지다가 뭐도 어떻게 숨고요. 어떻게 계신 걸 해서
Up until the moment when emptiness is directly perceived, up until the moment when the mind of awakening is fully realized, it remains the moment for the cultivation of love and compassion and the intensification of these minds of loving compassion, for the establishment of samadhi. So it is the moment for continued meditation, and this is very important. Neglecting to meditate and leaping into service for the well-being of others, one has missed the moment for the development of love and compassion. But when direct perception of emptiness is realized, then the natural moment for service for the well-being of others has come, when one has the capacity to give anything in generosity, all of one's body and one's resources. One has now everything to give, and all that one gives is endless. This is the definite progression. To understand this progression is very important.
Oh, yeah, 답변이 그래 잘했나? 맹 동무 첨부 맹 동무 첨부 주바이나 맹 동무 첨부 제분맘이 봐도라 제부도 마도 왔지 당고 행동들은 숨겹치고도 동부도 야고야 제주 동부도 제부도 따주 아니 제부도 멤버십 민 사선 아니 신의 제부도 또는 lon적으로 와 이나신 단다 또 하나도 내 당보 쪽에 당보 동부도 숨겹쳐야 최대 하나도 배셈 유모도 봐 숨겹치 아니 자주고 쓴데 야고 이제 깨봐 땜바지 아니 그 자주 쌤들이 돈이 무슨 또 받을래 땡이들 잡아서 보면서 먼저 단들 내가 개시시 되래서
To illustrate this, the example of a medicinal plant is given. Until the medicinal plant has yielded the fruits with the medicinal properties, the plant is cultivated, and its base, its trunk, is protected so that it may ripen and yield what is of medicinal value. And so we as beginners should be engaged in protecting the base of the trunk, protecting our mind from the klesha. And until we realize direct insight to emptiness, it remains the moment for exercising samadhi and cultivating love and compassion. And this is very important.
Oh, yeah, 그런 게 모두 주시 많아서 같이 비교 쌤 chanjugu sem da jasa chijusu choba lobe chidula da chanjugu sem singi de modu chidu res odi da modu de odi modu lob adi ne ma de nga zo da lob zendo odi sawa do de inso.
Here is the awakening mind of Bodhichitta. The awakening mind of Bodhichitta involved in the trainings of the way of the Bodhisattva. And these comments are a review again, and a review for an introduction again to this central topic.
Ole, 다만 이 돈다 시에 가서 다시 강도 시에 대하게 돈이 무슨도 또 돈이 무슨도 또 양의 양도 제가 돈이 무슨도 또 탈신 받으셔야지. 되게 람 이 수도 벌써 땡이진 거 그러와 어 되게 두제게 땡이진 세야겠다 땡이진 계약이 땡이진 도야겠다 셈데 갈래지 유매지 뭐셔야 되다라 셈 차락 셈 뭐셔 거도 같이 보시고 자살해 소시.
And when involved in this topic is a repeated mention of emptiness and the realization of emptiness and a sustained realization and insight to emptiness, and then the completion of such an insight to emptiness as characteristic of the path. The question follows, what realizes this insight? It is samadhi that realizes the insight. And in samadhi, involved in samadhi, all importantly, are these ranges, again, in states of conscious awareness, coarse to subtle.
Oh, yeah, that I think number one, ma, same chala, is a shame do. Tanga to Tanda Chanju with same, but Tony wasn't the top end. Shut up, said, or that lam is a shame do somewhat that courage over resna, cousin of the same the mini time, you may send down, Lubu Sims. What that you done with essence.
And in the topic of states of conscious awareness, coarse to subtle, and in the repeated mention of Bodhichitta, of the wisdom realizing emptiness directly, and all other instances mentioning the paths in their diversity, what is required for orientation are principally these two: the mind that is primordial mind and the mind that are adventitious states of conscious awareness.
Oh, yeah, that Lubu Sims. Karibasana 가지고 땅을 제시 잡사도 로고에 샘생이 세디기 루 템베기 루디 수케 용도 샘디 루디 내여나 샘디 내니 루디 마네나 샘디 마네바 신얘기 다 샘디 로고에 샘스 가지고 제시 잡사다 기준 제기와 말해서
The adventitious, supervenient states of conscious awareness are those characteristic during this lifetime that are based upon their object, physically instantiated, without the underlying physical support of the physical body. There can be none of these supervenient, adventitious states of conscious awareness. Where the underlying physical support is absent, then supervenient states are absent, and don't forget that.
Oh, yeah, that 눈매 샘생이 돈이 당고 돈이 또 얘네 돈이 무슨도 또 얘네 돈이 무슨도 양이한 또 얘네 돈이 무슨도 배 가두이는 돈이 무슨도 또와 세게다 남지 좀 더단디 눈매 샘들 거르마도 로부 샘디 가두고 내가 차도로 저도 눈매 샘디 내가 치고를 해서
Primordial mind is active during these events which we describe as the first realization of emptiness and direct perception of emptiness, and then repeated direct perception of emptiness, and then continuous perception of emptiness. Involved in such perceptions of emptiness are only the primordial mind. All supervenient states of conscious awareness are inactive.
Oh, 다 수수 샘들 다 이제 시제 걸다 다 샘들 얘기 샘들 오 뭐만 단단한 쪽에 미기 수통심바 수통심바 샘이어래 암쪽을 다 고시 고심에 샘이어래 Chile draw non shimmy semior, Luigi Reza, oh, Reza Trin Pest, Jambudu, the Subudu, say Reza Yang Shimbag, Sheba, and the Yi Chip, oh, Shimbag, Sheba, oh, Gonga, Sheba di, Tandangan want to put it over Sheba Rabodi, Rabora, should do what the other see, go to Chesare.
And observing one's own mind, of one's own mind, that it is characterized by force, manifesting states of conscious awareness, such as the mind that is vision, seeing, and the mind that is audition, hearing, and the mind that is olfaction, smelling, and the mind that is the rest of the 5 states of sensory awarenesses. These are manifest states of conscious awareness, all of them coarse, as has been presented.
Oh, that in Sheba is Tartana. Oh, yeah, Mama, the Chesa in the I just want to say the Chesa in September. Tandanga the Chigi Yoda, Cheshimba in the Samba. Oh, but I get the Chigi in the Jabber Jubaki or two Sumji. I mean, Chawacharan, Pasutani, Sheba Chick. I didn't Sheba the test tower, yes, much.
Moving to slightly subtler states of conscious awareness, we consider memory of past events and awareness of events in action and anticipation of events to come. These subtler states of conscious awareness.
Oh, yeah, that in it so you delay trust something, and around that the chag wangi, rangi peta, pena, Numu to Yorota, rangi deve chola chabegi, Numu, the Magawe chola, the downwegi, Shedan, and it Parmala, Timu, the Legita, Numu with Namsha Mangujo, oh, the Gidi Kanga, Sheba Rapana, your resolution.
To move to states of conscious awareness subtler still, the klesha of attachment to objects, of aversion to others and objects, to indifference, and the like. The klesha are subtler states of conscious awareness.
Oh, this one. Oh, yeah, in it, that village tower, Samadan, and then now Kalamba, and then Cheba Malamba, Nieto Nalamba, now some Sidwa. Oh, that city Namshi Daneta, Tower, Tajudo, that is some resonance.
And very subtle, most subtle, are the luminosities luminous white appearance, luminous red increase, and luminous immanence or imminent luminosity.
Oh, yeah, that Dipadola, Karesna, Sedi Lula, Tembegi, Sheba Tara sum the res, Ludilla Tembegi, Sheba Tara sum dilla, Lubu Shebas. Or that the Yebugo resmus.
Already,
Nancy Sum,
Nancy Sumdi, Lobur Wisen.
that I call it Sheba, Sheba, Gongan Sheba, and said, Nancy Sum, the part of Sheba River Mangustua, the Yegan, Lubu Sheba. Said the Lulu Tempe Sheba, said the Lulu Nena Consulan Sheba the Yor, said the Lulu Gardu, and Sheba the Gardu, or the Lubu Sheba.
the continuum from the coarsest states of awareness of the sense faculties through the klesha, through the three luminosities, all insofar as they depend upon their physical support, are supervenient, adventitious minds. Now, subtlest of all, not a supervenient mind, not adventitious supervenient mind at all, but primordial mind is the clear light of death. It is the primordial mind.
Oh, yeah. That Sheba Rakwa into Kale Tower. And what Sheba Rakwa in a tower, in a Shindu Tower. All those more to do. Young Shindu Tower Tele, Tower, the Rakwaji, who's a quality of your essence.
So the cycle is of coarse states of conscious awareness, attenuated to ever subtler states of conscious awareness, attenuated to the very subtlest states of conscious awareness, and then all over again from subtlest states of conscious awareness, develop coarser states of conscious awareness, and coarsest states of conscious awareness in such a cycle.
Oh, yeah. The Juzamatanga to Timrims. Tangaranzo, Hama, that Yamlin Cheni, Timrim Yoan Chikdang, Yamlin Majin, Timrim Yoan, Ni Yor Esmas.
Which brings us to the dissolution stages. There are the dissolution stages in practice and the dissolution stages involuntary.
Oh, yeah. That Yamlin Majin, Timrim the Kadu Yungresina, that was a shit to Yungresums.
Now, when does the involuntary state of dissolution in its stages occur? This occurs at death.
Oh, yeah. That Yamlin Cheni, Lungi Yamlin Che. And Lam top what they get to call it, Rangi, Tarunga, Nuba Chang, and there's about the team to get so to be ranching, Tim to a watch. And cock up to your response.
The dissolution stages exercised in practice are exercised through wind exercises, through meditations on the path, through exercising moving winds, exercising the winds and the bindu in order to control the process of dissolution.
Oh, yeah, that's your probably. I mean, Chenny, Timmy Yoanda, Yamlin Machine, Timmy Yoani, Kogami, that's Shuzarwa, Sedanta, you do, not to Chidu, Timmy Digity, or Homer, Shargi or Esmus.
Now I have characterized dissolution stages as those exercised in practice and those occurring involuntarily at death. At death, the dissolution in its stages occurs involuntarily.
Oh, yes, that Chidu to Tamata, Timmy Kales, that Yamlin, Timmy on the jelly, she said that Chidu to Timmy on the Shidu. On the Ming the Cartars and the Pejan and Ming Cartars, Shidu, Timmy. She do it in Landu, several 시두지 팀림당 람두지 팀림 스님이들의 시위에 손수.
How does the dissolution phase transpire at death? We will concentrate on the dissolution stage involved in practice at a later time. There are two moments when dissolution occurs: dissolution at death and dissolution at the time of the path, that is, in practice.
오야. 다 맞아 간다. 가지는 것도다 망고신 주 가르시네 당고 멤버십 냠내시 미다고 냠내시야디 다 가르된다 냠내시야디 가르시게 그러나 아주 치워서 치워 시작하는데 시스템 창모된 아주 거두이다 미스 샘제 간데제 많이나다 수익계를 깨는 양바 치기로 와 치도도 치워서 시작이 요바디 아까 같이 뭐 규만 되게 용다까지 해서
Whatever the dharma presented, dharma involving four truths of the noble ones, impermanence, and the like, so too is the clear light of death and the subtle mind of clear light at death, universal and applicable to the experience of all sentient beings as they experience death.
다 대인도 다 나도 남들이 치와로 세디 샤르와라 누가 하장 첨부 보고요와 누가디 나게 맞아 내 당보가 자야게 싫어 하고 그 가다 내 첨부 전에 맞아 남들이 치와디 샤도야 가고요 다 시류기 치와디 샤도 담바 맞아 냠내 용야게 탑시지 러와지 다 탑시 니바디 시두기 치와 샤두 ene mazo ta pe chiwa seti moshya e rangi ta lam nyamele rutuya ge chaji ge chidula ta mazo lobyon chiya ge kogo ta mazo yoba de reso.
Dissolution at the time of the path requires great ability in the meditator, an ability not accessible to the beginner. Dissolution at the time of the path is very challenging. It requires considerable aptitude, whereas the dissolution at the moment of death is a moment of hope for all, a second resort for recognizing the mind of clear light. And in order to recognize the mind of clear light as it dawns, we have before us the opportunity to exercise so that we may make that recognition.
Yeah, 다들 냠내디 용하디 대첨부 차려 대첨부 인자 당아도 냠내디 지고 요래 그다 냠내디 지야게 된다라 담고 뭐를 갈래치기래서나 아니 맞아 다 치림기 다게 장가 계시 다들 장가 계리 거를 뭐 괜찮지 하나도 강가라다 가다 시도도 좀 계리 샤르기 요래 라온나 샤르기 거잖아 샤르기도 봤다 샤르기 뭐 보디 아니 나도 냠내나 기투야 치도라 담고를 가지고 모두야 붙여고 해서
The purpose of practice involves this recognition, which is critically important. and therefore we must practice. And the fundamentals of that which we must practice, I mean to introduce to you as the 8 signs, characteristic signs that do appear in a definite sequence as death transpires. As death transpires involuntarily, these characteristic signs appear, and so I would introduce these to you. Those practicing the Anattara Yoga Tantra, the unexcelled highest Yoga Tantras, those engaging in self-generation practices, at the end of the sadhana, the dissolution phase is presented. For the rest of you, I will introduce first just the terms for the signs, not yet providing explanation behind them. The first is mirage-like appearance. The second, smoke-like appearance. Third, appearance like fireflies. The fourth, like a flame of an oil lamp. Yeah. Followed by subtler appearance of white radiant luminosity, followed by red increasing luminosity, followed by black imminent luminosity, and finally followed by clear light. Those then the 8 appearances. We will conclude with those 8 appearances, but resume next week, reviewing the 8 inner appearances and the external signs. And now we will open up for the Q&A. You've got those signs, those 8 signs. It goes without saying that these are relevant to those practicing in the Mantrayana, and this is a exceptionally relevant topic for all. Anything that isn't clear, anything that is causing you some doubt, we can address those things in the Q&A.
Yeah, that is a great deal.
Thank you so much, Geshe-la. I just need to have some more clarification. I heard that there are two types of dissolution. One is the dissolution time of death, and then the other one is dissolution of time of, did you say path? I couldn't get the word, and which require great people with great aptitude and so on, and it's not for everybody. So would Geshe-la explain a little bit more about the dissolution of time of path?
Padani Goyala, the Durim, Kap Mandravani, Dravachik Sung Tokapo Jungson, Tachik, and Chidu, Chikche, then it Lamgidu, then it Lam, 60 Savo, Salamasala, then the Chason, Lam Yana, Tade Lamgidu de la, and the Durim de, and the Nyamlin Cheala, and the Topadang, Demba Yingores, Ravachikos, Tadi, and the Lamgi Durim de Kikorla, and he says, Chick Narch.
마시고 뭐라 치와 말레베 뭐라 더서 샤투어 요와 타선 치와 말레베 뭐라 다랑게 라와첸 르르 제장 룽게 제장 안 제장 룽 자든으로 강가로 제장은 땡이진 두비 아니 땡이진 또 비는 수 드림도 배라 마시고 세 퍼모와 마시고 뭐라 다랑 룽 뒤조로 랑게 치투고 요와 어디래들 들을 남도 있어
是不是son Dujur, Dinjur, Kerry Dinjur, Durim, Jong.
Long to do young part to do. She did number or John do Rawan Mevas do one. That Lam do the Rang Rawan Yavasim, Long Jan Rang Lula, Zada Long to the Lopet, Shuk Ted, and it's young. And to Java Long to Rang to do young parties. Some of the things in Shukim Tovella, Durum to Borwa. Oh, the board. Don't you wasn't thought that during the board response.
Dissolution at the time of the path is dissolution occurring before death. Before death manifests, it is the voluntary, deliberate exercise of the dissolution process to expose clear light through the force of samadhi that has been conditioned through the manipulation and exercise and finally control of the moving winds, so that dissolution doesn't require the involuntary process to transpire. Control of the moving winds recreates the dissolution process for direct perception of emptiness. This exercise in dissolution at the time of the path is required. More in the stages of the dissolution process when we take this as our topic next week.
Yeah, I think you like that, huh? Yeah. Oh, that's the other. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Geshe-la. I'm curious about when you were speaking of Longtempa saying that in order to benefit others, or not to turn, take it back, that it's best to like hide and retreat, and that it's not valuable to turn our attention to the welfare of others until there's been a direct experience of emptiness. And I'm curious about that because, you know, there are other ways in which we try to be of benefit to others that I guess, I don't know, I would just like for Geshe-la to explain a little bit more about
those of us who have not yet had a direct experience of emptiness that are making efforts to be of benefit to others. That's, or is it expound a bit more about that?
Laji ani drum be ani ke tu de dala ani te ani semchen gi dropa le tambo denzo ani ne wen pala dena ya res ani rabachi ani sunyin sere ta dela to ani to hochek sa ge do ani jidan de tongni ngosum ma to gardo 아니 신든 아니 저기요 말이야. 나머지 거기도 다 아니 도바 아니 랑 용기도 간스나 나이 바이나 아니 ngosum 아니 동니 동바니 ngosum 아니 또 규레 또 마중 아니 마토토 바르드 아니 마토나야 아니 신든 접 탑치기요 제자데 마토토 바르드 아니 신든 접 쓰데 간시 여바디 서시직 나오지
신들 두비 요 말했을 때는 때 그거 말아 신들 누구 말했다 근데 이 담거치 때와 담거치 때는 디 지나 야그레 디 지나 야그레 지나다 디 담다 뒤즈들 디 쳐버렸어 뒤즈 디지는 디 쳐버렸어 다 지는 거가다 디 지요 말했어 바꿔버려 상당히요 말했어 이나양 지도 내가 뒤즈들 배나 가서 보고 조심이나 그 정보도 좀 되게 장고 디네 디장고 좀 지어로 와 되나시 보고서 내 정보가 그냥 랭게 좀 받지 좀 봐. 아니 디체나 야고요 말스코 내가 니 담과 여바인다 담게는 디체나 야가 디체벨치 딩고는 치스 담과 되게 어려서
It would never be said one shouldn't serve the well-being of others, that working for the well-being of others shouldn't be done. This is never at all said. It's instead when one is asked, what should one's focus be, given a choice between this and this, which would be better at this time and which would be better at this time. It isn't that one shouldn't work for the well-being of others, that it's prescriptive. It's instead like for any young person in school, the way in which their studies are best progressive. There is material for the beginner, for the elementary student, during their elementary studies, topics that are better topics for study, and others that are not. In the same way, given a choice regarding what to focus on at a given time, the answer was given in this way.
내가 집에냐면 지고로 와. 집에냐면 지금 류롱주 뜻은 계속 땅으로 와. 류롱주 계속 땅으로 와. 제가 다 단단 내 담보에 두들라는 류 집어 땅 세비 레라고 말했어. 레라고 말해. 집어 땅에 류 집어 땅은 대당 아니 바게 집어 땅 투야가 지도 땡이지 보면 니부티 땡이지 보면 개쳐. 여봐 인상 단단 류 집어 땅에 말해. And
again, to illustrate this through the practice of generosity, in exemplary generosity, one gives their body, all their roots of virtue, and all of their resources. But for a beginner, the idea of practicing generosity with one's own body is hardly imaginable. Therefore, asked whether is this the moment for practicing the generosity of giving one's body, or the moment for meditation to develop samadhi so that one might become capable of practicing generosity through the giving of their body? The answer is this is the moment for cultivation of samadhi, and not the moment yet for the practice of generosity. This as an illustration.
수수 지투에 찍 마시나 수수 말합책으로 다시 책으로 수수 그 집맛도 제 우도 잡나야 아니 그 종라야 내가 여러 제가 딱 한달 제맛도 매버서야 이거다 제투가 여버서야 그 차제지 당고주 아니 디네 내가 제버이나 아니 내가 거의 말로 빼장만 여러 어디 수고를 했는지
It's just the way that one has to first concentrate on developing a capacity to do something before beginning to attempt to do that thing. If one only in futility attempts to do what one cannot over and over again, it is just one unfortunate continuous setback. One first eliminates what prevents one from succeeding and then goes on to succeed. And this allows the path to be clear and obstacle-free. And then when one has the capacity, then they must act accordingly. This is certain as well. So for the person who has adopted Bodhisattva vows, what they are capable of, they are responsible for.
아니 대학고 장주 쌤기 도바 켈렌조 있는다 이바도 수수게 계속 제맛도가 있나야 아우 지마송선이 여봐 근데 제투가 제거해야 된다 그렇게 켈렌 열어와 제단데 계속 뭐 자대요 그래서
Each day in practice, it hasn't got to be a desperate struggle, but one would do what one is able, and that is extraordinary. And when one has adopted Bodhisattva vows, then what one is capable of and responsible for, one must execute. Failing to do so, it is a downfall. So one does what one can and is responsible for.
배나다 로종기 냠내 줄마 냠내 지야도다 배제도 시바이나 배나 나저 짐바 랑기 짐바 땅으로 짐바 땅에 자주선 켈렌도 짐바 땅으로 짐바 땅에랑 켈렌은 여러와 다 짐바 땅 투구 매바이나 아니 마땅이나 자동 제거와 그래서 다 자동 마제요 전달 가르송요에서는 랑게 짐바 타는 땅 마투가 있나 다 드링에 짐바 땅으로 땅 투마고 땅이나게 제라 진도 짐바 땅 투어 쇼 땅 투어 지기 이 삼바 드리시 삼로 땅은 있나 근데 자동 마제야 어디 송교들 망고 요래 송지
In the exercises of mind training, when one reviews texts concerning mind training, and for instance, the practice of generosity, when one has adopted Bodhisattva vows, going along with the Bodhisattva vows is a responsibility to give in generosity. And when one cannot and does not practice generosity, this is a downfall to the Bodhisattva vows, but may be addressed by committing one, by recognizing, here I failed to give in generosity and did not give in generosity, but hereafter I will. I commit myself to charitable giving. This is a means to address the downfall. There will be plenty more opportunities to bring further clarity to this. If there are other questions, we might take those other questions. If there are no other questions, then we can close with our prayers. And with no questions, so then, when we have described, characterized the advantages of bodhicitta and attended to the advantages of bodhicitta, listening, and bodhicitta has been the basis of our conversation. And when the advantages to the awakening mind of bodhicitta know no limit, then the benefits of an exchange regarding bodhicitta itself has no limit and may be as dedication and a prayer dedicated to the bringing relief in the world where there is so much conflict and pain, and to becoming the very cause of awakening, to direct the benefits in this way is very important. Nije chenpo ye rabo jeba yi, pende tete sawara jeba sho. Seje jawe me jun tile le ru chanju lamje rembe jang. Tadu namje ye la bebe jing. Jawe zeba rindu jongjo je. Zang zang rube dunjen ruje je. Ge se je me dang me me gu. Sera kundu jawe ma pa ye. Namda lamda jawa ma ju je. Kanze te pa chola ju jo je. Sujin chola chumba te ye se. Tuke nange tatu ro che je. Tashi gyazo shugun gyagyu ji. From my two collections, vast the space that I have amassed from working with effort at this practice for a great length of time, may I become the chief leading Buddha for all those whose minds, wisdom, eye is blinded by evil. Even if I do not reach this state, may I be held in your loving compassion for all my lives, Manjushri. May I find the best of the paths of the complete teachings, and may I please all the Buddhas by practicing. Using skillful means drawn by the strong force of compassion, may I clear the darkness from the minds of all beings with the points of the path as I have discerned them. May I uphold Buddha's teachings for a very long time. With my heart going out with great compassion, in whatever direction the most precious teachings have not yet spread or once spread have declined, may I offer this treasure of happiness to aid all sentient beings. May the minds of those who wish for liberation be granted bounteous peace, and the Buddha's deeds be nourished for a long time by following the complete graduated path to enlightenment and the wondrous virtuous conduct of the Buddhas and their sons. May all human and non-human beings that will limited diversity make things conducive for practicing the excellent path, never be parted in any of their lives from the purest path praised by the Buddhas. Whenever someone makes effort to act in accordance with the tenfold Mahayana virtuous practices, may they always be assisted by the mighty ones, and may oceans of prosperity spread everywhere. Jinye slabe yewan di, tendan drowa kurma kam pindam. Kebara jezin lozon jabayi, tembe nyingbo rindu seje sho. Kanri rawe kurwe shingang de, pendan dewa mandu jungwe ne. Jere zinwa tezen jasayi, shabe side vaygo den yoroche, jangwe bawo jinar kemba dan. Kundu zambo deyan dejen Deda kunje jesu dalo je, Nyewa deda tamche radu. Desu jebe gyawa tamche ge, Mowa dangla chodu maba de. Taji jewe zawa tikun gyang, Zambo juje radu mowar ye. Janju senjo rinpo che, Ma je bano je yu che. Ewa nyamba me bayang, Mone gomdu ewa yo. I dedicate whatever virtues I have ever collected for the benefit of the teachings and of sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of Venerable Losang Drapa to shine forever. In a land encircled by snowy mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful sinners and please remain until cyclic existence is ended. Just as the brave Manjushri and Samantabhadra do, realize things as they are. Also, I dedicate all these merits in the best way, that I may follow their perfect example. I dedicate all these fruits of virtue with the dedication praised as the best by the victorious Askan ones of the three times, so that I might perform the noble Bodhisattva's deeds. May the supreme jewel of Bodhichitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. May it be auspicious with you and good night. Reviewing the 8 stages in the dissolution with the names that you can put to each return next week with that in mind.